I was born on September 28, 1992, in Ruse, Bulgaria. At that time, no one besides the mother was allowed in the hospital, so my mom held me in the window after I was born so my dad could see me, and then he went to celebrate with his friends and drink to wish me good health. Apparently, they drank and celebrated for over a week. They even hired a gypsy orchestra to follow them around, and that's why he says I'm so healthy now. Almost 4 years later, my sister Divna was born, 5 days before my birthday. This confused me for years. I thought it meant she was older than me since her birthday was before mine, but apparently it doesn't work that way. We had an amazing childhood in Bulgaria. We'd go to the mountains and the beach every summer, and we'd go skiing every winter. My family spent as much time as possible in nature or exploring a new part of the country, and we were always really close. I felt so free. We were always outside, and spending all summer at my grandparents' house in the village meant that all my days were spent riding my bike and eating amazing homegrown food. When I was 6, I went to a summer camp and came back with lice. I gave them to my sister too, and my parents didn't want to use harsh chemicals on us, so they just shaved our heads. Everyone thought we were boys, but I gotta tell you, it's so low maintenance having a shaved head. Don't think I'd ever do it again though. For New Year's in 1999, my parents went to America to celebrate the new millennium. They were supposed to be gone for 2 weeks. We had a countdown calendar, and I actually remember we were crossing it out. I think there were like 4 days left before they were supposed to return when we got the phone call. My parents said they loved America, and they thought we would all have better opportunities if we moved there. So for the next year and a half, they stayed in the States trying to sort out visas for us. My mom went back to college so she could get a student visa, which, considering the fact that none of us knew any English, was amazing. During that year and a half, my sister and I lived with my grandparents. Every time a plane would pass in the sky, we waved to it and thought it was our parents. It was really hard for all of us not to be together, but we knew we would be able to soon. When my dad finally was able to come back for us, he totally surprised us by just waiting on the steps when we got home. That was the first, and I think the only time I've ever seen him cry. On October 8, 2001, we moved to America to a town outside of Boston. I started school 2 days later, and I knew maybe 10 words in English at that point. I remember I had an electronic dictionary where I could type in a word and it would translate it to Bulgarian for me, but it still took me a while to be able to even get a general idea of what was going on. One of the most embarrassing moments of my whole life was when I was in class and reading something out loud. I had to read the word faucet, but I couldn't quite figure out if the C made an S or a K sound. Well, I went with the K sound. Sound it out, and you'll see why a whole room of 10-year-olds exploded in laughter. The crazy thing is though, less than a year later, I was moved up a level in English class and was more advanced than a third of the kids at my school, who were all born in America. This was one of my proudest moments. I got made fun of a lot for my accent and for my super intense Bulgarian eyebrows, but over the next few years, I started losing my accent and fitting in more, and I found some amazing friends. By the time I was 11, I'd moved 9 times. Having moved so much and always being the new kid without friends meant that my sister and I got really close. She was my best friend and was always there. She's still one of my closest friends to this day, and I'm so lucky to have her. My parents had heard of a boarding school near Boston, and they thought it'd be an amazing opportunity for me to go. I applied and I got in. I couldn't even believe it. I'd been in the States for less than 5 years, and I got accepted to one of the best schools in the country. Boarding school was amazing. At the age of 14, I basically moved into a house full of girls who would become my best friends and my second family. My roommate Kate and I pushed our beds together, and everyone would gather in our room and talk about boys and read Cosmo and try to learn how to dance like Beyonce, which never really worked out. We were all there for each other's highs and lows, and it brought us all so close, so leaving boarding school was really hard. For university, I dreamed of going to NYU. I'd watch Sex and the City and Gossip Girl religiously with my friends, and all I wanted was to live in New York. Unfortunately, we couldn't afford NYU, so my parents told me I had to go to school in London. This broke my heart at the time, but I now see that if I'd taken out loans to go to NYU, I wouldn't be free to travel and do what I want to do now. So I moved to London for uni. I was all alone, and it took over a year and a half for me to find good friends. I actually had a really tough time since I was so used to living with my best friends. Everyone wanted to drink and do drugs, and I just kept wishing I could go back to having fun with my friends without needing those things. I think this is what put me off drinking and why I don't really drink now. By the end of my 3 years though, I'd made some good friends and I went backpacking around Europe for a month. It totally got me hooked to traveling. I moved to New York after that to live with my family and tried to figure out what to do with my life. I was so lost and knew that I just wanted to travel and make the world better in some way, but felt the pressure to try to get a real job. I'd been waitressing and bartending for all 3 years in London and kept doing it almost every night in New York to pay rent while I was trying to decide what to do. During the day, I was applying to jobs, but it was obvious to them and me that I just didn't want to be there. I couldn't see myself in an office. After a year of this, when I was living with my friend Lily, a really cool guy with dreads came to stay with us for the weekend. He had the most amazing life, and we stayed up for hours just chatting. We had tons in common, and when he came back to visit us a few months later with a whole bunch of his friends, he invited me to come with them on a road trip across the US and then to China. Obviously, I said yes. Finally, I'd found a group of people who weren't trying to get a real job, but were living the most incredibly fulfilling lives. Seeing them all filming and sharing their lives and passions with so many amazing people on the internet made me think that maybe I could give it a shot. So, I decided to try making a video in China and see if I like it, or I could maybe be good at it. I stayed up for 2 days straight when I got back editing, and learned as much as I could, and I had so much fun. Pressing publish for the first time was so exhilarating. The past year and a half has been almost like a dream. I've met so many amazing people, traveled to places I didn't even know existed, and I'm figuring out a way to make a positive impact and inspire others to be kind and loving, and to open up their minds and hearts to the world. I want to say thank you so much for your love and for joining me on this incredible journey. I'm really excited for the future, and I can't wait to keep sharing it with you guys. Please give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and make sure to subscribe if you want to follow along in my adventures. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!